Hello everybody, this is my first YouTube detailing video and we are doing my daily driver, my Yamaha V-Star 1100. As you can see, this thing is incredibly dirty. I tried to ride it through most of the winter. Any day it was dry, I was generally riding it to work and to wherever I possibly could, and it definitely shows. It picked up a lot of the dirt from the road, and it also got left outside in the rain this weekend. The paint, the chrome, the frame, the engine, it is all filthy as can be. I generally like to do at least one detail a year, sometimes two or three, depending on how dirty it gets from whatever rides I may be doing. To start it off, I did a quick power rinse. After I started spraying water, I realized I should probably get my saddlebags taken off. They're velcroed and zippered on, so it was a pretty quick removal. It took me longer to untie the string than it did to actually pull them off. I am speeding this video up to 4 to 8 times the speed to make it go a little bit quicker and not bore you guys to death. I'm using a 2300 psi electric power washer with a 40-degree pressure tip. It is the ideal pressure for motorcycles, I feel. I was trying to be very careful not to shoot anything directly into like the speakers or into the control consoles on the handlebars, and keeping a fair distance away from some of the chrome and painted surfaces. There was an accidental time in which I tripped over this hose on the other side, and the tip of that gun touched against the leather seat and made a small nick in it, which was very disappointing. My son loves going for motorcycle rides and just plain hanging out with Dad. So once I got him out of the way, I finished rinsing the rest of the bike off. After rinsing off all the gunk and the grime and all the thick layers of dirt, I used Chemical Guy's melon scented soap, foaming soap in a high pressure cannon. It was quite good smelling. A friend recommended it, and I didn't quite believe that melon was the most popular scent, but it was a pretty good flavor, not gonna lie. After I sprayed it down, I used a brush and a rag to go around all the edges and get into the crevices. I'm not a huge fan of using a detailed brush, mostly because I think it's way too time consuming, but it was very handy to get into some of those tight crevices and cracks. My main focus with this first wash is to get all of that dirt that you saw at the very beginning off of the bike. I want that off the chrome, the rims, the paint job. I want it off all of it so that I can guarantee that the surfaces are clean. Large contaminants are off of it so that I can work a clay bar into it next. I ended up spending quite some time on that back rim. I think I brake heavy with my rear brake, so it was covered in brake dust and took quite a minute to clean up. After that rinse, wash, wipe down, I then take I soap it again for lubrication and use a clay bar to hit all painted surfaces and majority of the chrome surfaces as well. It just works really good to pull out all of the contaminants. I definitely did not do every square inch, but immediately around the engine there was definitely a lot of contaminants, especially around the wheels, all the dirt and grime and dust that gets kicked up. After clay barring, I then soaped it again and then just power wash, rinse it off to make sure that all of the dirt is gone and that my surfaces that I will then be detailing are completely clean. I then wipe down every surface again, at this point just trying to dry it off. I end up using 2 rags because once my first rag got too soaked, it really wasn't quite efficient, so I had to go grab another one and go over every surface again just to make sure that it was all dried. I usually prefer to use a blower, but such a small job, I figured a couple rags could do the job pretty quick. Again, my son just wants to hang out with dad. I then tried to do some paint correction on the tank. There are a couple of spots that just got worn heavier than the rest of the tank, probably from my son going on rides with me and his shoes rubbing across the gas tank. I used Meguiar's rubbing compound, which has some fine abrasives in it that work into the surface, clearing up some of the swirl marks and some of the oxidization. This is generally done best with a power buffer, but for such a small job and such a little damage, I didn't see that it was worth my time to break out the power buffer just for this little bit of elbow grease. After applying it and scrubbing in both directions, tight circles all the way around, I end up buffing it off. I also use this on the chrome as well. I try not to go aggressive on the chrome because I'm still not certain that it's safe on all metals, but it is good in light applications to clear up any of the light surface contaminants that may be in that clear coat. There were 2 little spots again that where my son's heels sit when he rides on the motorcycle with me that I tried to hit again with the rubbing compound before I moved on to the next step of polishing. I also should probably mention that this video is sped up to, I believe, 4 times the speed, just so that you could go through this a little quicker. So don't be overly impressed by my speedy hands there in tight circles. I move at a moderately slow pace, putting moderate amounts of pressure onto the surface, more so just trying to work in all of the compound. The next step is Meguiar's Ultimate Polish. This has some more micro abrasives that work to get the rest of the small minor details out of the clear coat. I didn't have another round applicator, so I ended up using a microfiber rag. Doing this, I had to use up a little extra polish because the rag does soak up some of that polish into it. It's also quite difficult to hold the whole rag in your hand while only using the tip of a rag. But for such a small application, I just made it work because it wasn't worth going to buy another one at this time. I also did my speedometer glass. It had a few minor scratches, nothing major, but I do think that the compound and the polish helped get out the little bit of damage that was in there. You'll notice there's a black ring around that speedometer. I tried to wipe that off extra carefully because it's not good to leave wax, compound, or polish on those rubber, plastic, vinyl, or leather surfaces. After applying, I just flipped to a new side of my rag and cleaned it, buffed it off as best as possible. Everyone recommends long strokes instead of tight circles, so I tried to do that as best as possible. There are times when there were a little bit of spots I was trying to focus on with some of those tight circles. The next step is to apply a liquid wax. I used Meguiar's Ultimate Wax, which is the 3rd step of this set. When you buy this product, it comes with a cute little applicator that I think just works dandy. I apply it in tight circles, just as I did the compound and the polish, working it into every surface. I then gave it a minute to haze up. After waxing, well, I went and found the special rag that also comes in the box, and then I gave it a quick wipe down. At this point, this thing is shiny. It has a deep and wet looking gloss to it. There are a couple of spots, like I said, where my son's shoe was, that probably will take a power buffer, but it's such a good mirror finish. I absolutely love it. The next part of this video is to demonstrate majorly how to use the same compound process, compound polisher and wax, to restore lightly faded headlights. If you have heavy oxidization, you should probably get some sandpaper, 25, 3000, or 5000 grit, or all three, depending on how bad your oxidization is. Sand it down and then complete the compound polish and wax process. This did a little bit just to clean off some of the yellowing that has been happening over the last few months. This bike has 30,000 miles on it. 10,000 of those miles were done in the last 8 months. I like to ride and ride as often as I can, so it definitely gets dirty and definitely gets used, especially where my headlight is on all the time. It produces a lot of heat, and that heat heats up that plastic, causing it to turn yellow constantly. So again, this whole next few seconds is about trying to make that look just shiny. I'm also doing my windshield with the same compound polish wax process because I want it to, there were a few surface chips that I was hoping that it would get out, and it moved a few of them, but not enough to really make it worth my time if I was to do it again. I would probably just apply the wax and call it good. I then did the whole bike behind the scenes and then did the leather with Meguiar's leather detailer, cleaner, and protector all in one, 3-in-1 product. It's very good. It does leave the surface slightly slick, which some people do not prefer. I honestly don't mind, but I did try to broadcast there. You need to be careful because it will get on your paint, and it is a little bit oily, and it is very difficult to get off. I actually wiped it before I started wiping the seats because I wanted to make sure that it came off without streaking the rest of the finish that I just completed. I then wiped around down with a rag. And then I wiped down the little leather holster hanging off of the windshield. I did not spray this. I just wiped with what was ever left of my rag. You can see there how much dirt that leather contained. I also put on a little bit of protectant onto the rubber and vinyl surfaces that are on this bike. This just helps keep it protected from the UV rays and also restores a little bit of color to it so it's not so faded white. I could use a back to black product or trim restore, but it wasn't quite that bad yet. This is the final product, and I am thoroughly impressed. The chrome was all waxed, went through the same process, 3-step process, and I think it turned out beautiful. The tank looks phenomenal, like a mirror finish. You can see my house through the gas tank there. And that Meguiar's is super easy to lay on and then wipe up. The top of the headlight is extremely shiny. Not that it matters, but it looks extremely cool. I did not put any gloss on the wheels. I'm not a huge fan of glossy wheels. I like the flat, clean look. I made sure I cleaned around the key where the key goes because it was scratched up from other keys. The chrome air filter looks phenomenally reflective. The tank looks reflective. all the chrome just pops. I do have a little speaker wire that I was too lazy to tuck in properly. Don't mind that. And there it is, my Yamaha V-Star, detailed for the first time of this year. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe or don't. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. Have a wonderful day.